Today, I'm gonna redesign a few packages and logos for popular snacks, but what even counts as a snack? Like for real, please tell me, I have no idea. I would say it's something that you eat that isn't part of a meal, but then basically any snack that I can think of, people do use as part of their meals in one way or another, especially when we consider school lunches. So maybe I'd just say it's something that doesn't fill you up very good, but at that point, the definition is so vague that you kind of just make up your own rules. And that's why today's selection of redesigns is a little questionable, but we're running with it. Welcome back to Fix the World. Let's kick things off with Goldfish. Goldfish really doesn't need an introduction at this point. They're just so massively popular. But if I'm being honest, I really am not a huge fan of this package. The font doesn't really do it for me, along with just the placement of all the elements. But the one thing they definitely are doing correctly is Finn himself. He's just so cool. Look at those sunglasses. So we'll try to keep some element of him in our design. But other than that, we're gonna be redoing a lot of this. And we'll start with some text saying Goldfish. Now, if I'm being honest, I've been kind of in this little creative rut where, like, looking at this packaging design, I'm not feeling inspired to make anything specific. But then one of you guys left a comment on the can video where I was redesigning the Sprite logo, and you were saying I should focus more on the actual logos for these brands. And just thinking about it that way, I actually came up with a pretty fun idea, I think. If we have the word goldfish, that can obviously be split up into gold and fish. Whoa. And the word gold just makes me think of like gold bars. And those are obviously very rigid, like blocks. So I think what we can do to reflect that is get a font that's very blocky. I think I'm gonna go one letter at a time on this, which will take a second. Let's give all of these a stroke. And that way, if we just rearrange these in certain ways, this kind of looks fun. I think we do gotta just get like a little fish above the eye. Then before I get too carried away, I wanna elaborate on my idea for the logo. Obviously, I want it to be gold looking, which will end up including stuff like this. And even on top of that, I think we could do some sort of gradient overlay if we make it very subtle. I think that adds a little more three-dimensionality to it, like the top is just a tiny bit more yellow. Then I am going to apply a bigger stroke onto the whole thing. And the reason I didn't do this earlier, if the stroke was that big on each letter individually, then this G would be cutting in way farther into the O, etc. And we don't want that thick of a stroke on each individual letter, just the entire logo itself. I am, however, gonna make the individual ones slightly bigger. That way it's kind of matching this shadow section of the letter with the stroke. I know the goldfish is not drawn yet, but might as well put the effects on that too. That's looking pretty good. You see how there's all these like white gaps between the letters? If we just fill those in with just a basic black brush, it kind of just cleans it up, makes it feel less amateur maybe. Anyway, this is just the first phase of my idea. We still have to represent the fish part of all of this. I want to make it look like there's an ocean happening within all of these letters, and this fish is splashing up from the ocean. I think what I'm gonna have to do is copy all of these letters. I can do a clipping mask, which will let me only draw on what they are. You know what I mean? So now I just have to figure out how to draw an ocean. Oh, that's interesting. What's happening there? Drawing is not my expertise, which might seem a little counterintuitive to being in the graphic design world, but hey, I'm trying my best. I don't want to like emphasize these splashes. I don't want it to seem like it's a gushy sort of thing. You know, like Gushers has the whole splashiness, but I do want it to like make sense that the fish is splashing out of the water. I should probably redraw the fish so it actually looks like a goldfish. I'm just using this as a reference, don't worry. I am gonna skip out on that smile. I'm not doing that little indent just because it's a little simpler for this simple logo. Oh no, I already did the outline thing. We'll have to add back in the stroke. That's not looking too bad. And I'm not done with the ocean yet, by the way. I am still going to add a little more depth to it. Now you'll notice I'm doing the cheddar goldfish, which are the original, right? No. Goldfish were not made to be just like consumed raw. They were originally made as soup crackers. That makes way more sense why they're fish, because it's like they're swimming in the soup. And so the original flavor was not cheese. It was just like a saltine sort of thing. It actually has blue in there, which kind of signifies the water even more too. I'm thinking a way we could make it stand out even more is if we give it a little warp, maybe an arch, just a little bit. Let's get a good picture of Finn Goldfish. Wow, there really are not good photos of Finn. What happened, brother? Oh, okay. Good idea. So I remember seeing some of you guys saying that on the Goldfish package, I should make it look more like a fishbowl sort of thing. I don't know if I'm necessarily gonna do that, but that did give me an idea. What if we made it so you could see into the box like you can see into a fishbowl? What better way to do that than with the silhouette of our guy here, Finn? Let me make sure I select the silhouette correctly. And let's find a pile of these goldfish. That is not real goldfish. This will do. It will not look super pretty. We'll combine all of those, create a clipping mask. Now it's a little window inside. That's sick. I kind of want the sunglasses to be visible though. Some of the edges on this are a little rough, so I'm going to smooth it out. Then if we give that a bevel and emboss, get rid of the shadow part. And while we're at it, we'll do a little inner shadow, which will make it look just that little bit indented. Now we just gotta mess with the rest of the package. Give this a gradient overlay. I don't know about that yellow being in the background. It's a little too bad. What if we compromise? Let's just get some other text in here and stuff. And I don't want to use the same font. I'm thinking more round and bold instead of so blocky. Give it a nice stroke along with a drop shadow. Yeah, that's perfect. And then we need baked snack crackers. I do kind of like that diagonal, like italic directional business going on. And I'm thinking that can essentially just be that darker orange color. Maybe we give that a shadow of its own. With that background, I'm not loving it. What if we just do a couple good shapes? We can even do another layer. These sunglasses are not looking good. They are very pixely. We can kind of draw on our own shines. Then we'll get our eraser and make it nice and soft. Trying to generally copy the same shapes as it had before. Oh, he's so cool. Packaging design is so interesting. After doing YouTube for so long, it's like packages are the thumbnails of the food world. Your packaging has to be so good because the only way people are gonna eat your product is if they think it looks good. I actually have to go, geez. And I guess I'll just pick this up later. Okay, it's a new day, we're back at it. Fresh new mind, new perspective. That was a much needed break. In the meantime, I did a little bit of tuning up. Mainly I fixed up the shading on this fish here. And even on all the letters, all this black space, I made it just fit together a little nicer. I tried to make them look even more 3D in a way, where it's like you can see the shadow of this H, for example, is going this direction. But on the opposite side, we've got like the shadow on this L going the opposite direction. That way it kind of looks like it just pops out instead of just being like a flat 3D thing. There's nothing you can really do to make it look 3D because it is on a 2D surface and you guys are obviously watching on a screen. I also took a little peek at some fonts just because this one was bothering me so bad. And I ended up thinking that this one looked pretty nice. I do want to get the stroke on there, but a little less intense than before. And I'm going to do a nice and simple drop shadow just like so. Next, we got to move on to that little Pepperidge Farm logo. Again, I do have a problem with it. I think first of all, we just totally get rid of that little cottage and we'll pick some kind of font like this. We will do that kind of arch thing again, like the original. And maybe we'll kind of copy that little shape there too. Bring this back to white. And we'll make sure that the curves of the arc and the arch match up correctly. We'll maybe give it a tiny stroke and maybe even that drop shadow sort of thing too. Yeah, that looks really clean. See, it does kind of get in the way of the rest of the logo just because it's a little different. But if we line them up like that and just fill in the gaps like we did with the actual letters, see, that is way less abrasive than this original part of the logo. It just feels like it's nice and cohesive, you know? I guess the last piece of text would be this 100% real cheese bit. And there is some nice negative space down in this bottom right corner. I am a sucker for geometric shapes. So if you have a shape like this and you have your text tool, you can go right on the edge like this and you'll type around the edge of it. Put that up here. I think we got to change that font. Yeah, something like this guy. Maybe the cheese part doesn't need to be part of the circle, you know what I mean? And we'll need to make a little cheese icon to go in there. And if we give them different colors a little bit, that looks pretty much like a cheese. Drop that right in here. There you go. New Goldfish. This is actually one of my favorite ones I've ever done. And you guys were here with me. Since I like this design and a bunch of others I've done in the past, I wanted to make a little portfolio site to show off some of my favorites, which I was only able to do with today's sponsor, Framer. Framer is a super easy no-code website building tool that lets you create and launch your own site fast. I started mine with one of their over 700 templates, then proceeded to completely change it to look how I wanted, with these blocks showing off my designs with a little description. I don't have any kind of developer background, but this is all laid out in a way that just makes sense and keeps things simple while having more features than I'll ever need. But I did actually end up using a couple of those features, and they honestly made my website feel so much more modern and clean. Starting with these scroll animations. I made it so when this frame comes in and out of view, it has this nice fade and zoom in effect. That was super easy to apply to the other frames with just a couple clicks. And I also made my own custom cursor to follow yours around for some good vibes. Look at him go. I finished the whole site within about an hour, and I just hit publish up in this corner, and now it's good to go. You can actually go to this website right now and see how clean it is. So go give Framer a shot and build your own website for free at the link in the description. And with my code, you can upgrade for 25% off your first 3 months of Framer. All right, for the next one, we're gonna do Chips Ahoy. Now this name kind of bothers me a little bit. If you didn't know, it's supposed to be a pun of ships ahoy, which is like something pirates would say when it's like, oh, there's a ship, yep. And so it's being called Chips Ahoy based off like, oh, yep, there's a chocolate chip. It's like other than the word ahoy, nothing on here tells me like pirates. So of course, a few of you guys were saying that we should make Chips Ahoy actually have to do with pirates, and I have the perfect solution for that. If we rewind back to this episode, the cereal box one, I ended up redesigning the Cap'n Crunch box to look something like this. Oh, I forgot how it looked exactly. That's so awesome. Obviously, it's a little more goofy. It's like a pirate sailing in the milk ocean and like being faded in the background. But in a way, I think this exact aesthetic would be kind of fun for Chips Ahoy. So I am pretty directly going to copy and paste most of this. Don't worry, it's not going to be an exact rip off of my old design. The main reason is I do not like this logo I had. Like that bevel and emboss and the bright blue just do not work in this theme. Anyway, let's just get rid of most of this. Texture really does make a big difference on these designs. That's what I'm realizing. Just look at this design. This versus this, that is like miles ahead. So much better with this. One little image overlaid on top. Let's get this ship, put it right on the side there. I made this little custom hat for him to look like the Cap'n Crunch hat, but that actually works so well with the whole Chips Ahoy branding because it's blue and it's a big C for Chips Ahoy instead of Cap'n Crunch. I was trying to make it work, but maybe this is just another one of Cap'n Crunch's adventures. I am going to want to get a more piratey font. Yeah, okay, Masonic Lodge. I kind of want to get 2 different fonts going on there. Just seeing that straight up, it's not very inspiring to me. What if we tried that Connemara style? Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that Y and H especially. What if we did that for the top one too? Maybe that's just the better font. Might be the one for the job. Let me just warp these so that they're kind of on a cooler shape. Maybe we could kind of like group warp these together. And especially I want that Y to kind of come down a bit more. We can give that the blend modes as well. So what I'm doing here is it's looking at the underlying layer, meaning like the background. And wherever there's really big highlights, it's gonna take that out from the letters itself. And I just want to find the best balance of where that looks good. Maybe we do get exclamation point. That fits the vibes. Drop shadow does not look very good. Maybe that's just the color of the drop shadow. Yeah, even like some brightness looks not too bad. Same with a stroke. Very good. What if it looked like more blue ink just to fit with the original? And maybe even the exclamation part could be in itself a red ink. You know, I grew up eating these at my grandma's house all the time, and that was just so good. A great experience all around. Recently, I was like, I want to relive that experience. So I went to the store, I got some Chips Ahoy. They say, oh, the cookie you love just got even better. Oh, interesting. How's it gonna taste now? I was skeptical, but hopeful. And guys, it just doesn't taste good anymore. You know those famous Amos cookies? Now the Chips Ahoy basically just taste like that. I don't think it's bad, but it's just, that's not what I'm looking for. And it makes me so sad. As our final touches, I will not be adding more text onto here other than this little lift tab and the Nabisco corner thing. I think that's how big it's supposed to be, but I don't like it being that big. It also does not fit the vibes, so we're gonna blend that in differently. And we'll grab this little thing that can help us signify that little pull tab, changing the color on that as well. Oh, and I actually have an idea for what we could do more for the logo. Since this is kind of a paper texture going on, I'm thinking we add like some sort of stain, like coffee stain sort of thing, just to make it pop out that little extra more. Yeah, that already looks pretty much what I was going for. I do want it to be below the milk. That kind of looks unnatural. Oh, and we should probably make it not say sweetened corn and oat cereal. I just realized that. Real chocolate chip cookies. There you go. Chips Ahoy. We get a little silly around here. But honestly, I am still very happy with that. All right, next up we've got Eggos. Again, my definition of snack is very loose here. My main idea for this one is to, again, kind of just work on the logo itself. Apparently the name Eggo comes from people just saying that it had an eggy taste. And that's when I started getting thinking, this is the waffle. And around it, it's got like this egg white sort of stuff, right? See what I mean? Where it's like you got an egg, that's the yolk, and that's the egg white. Same sort of thing with this waffle. Then we'd kind of fill in the colors. I was thinking we could just do white to be like, oh, it's like an egg, whatever. But an alternative version that would be just as valid is if we made it brown and we act like that syrup. I don't know if the brown or white would look better, but I think that'd be a cool idea. Then that way, it's just like a very singular logo to represent Eggo, and it's not relying so much on the visual of it. So let's just start with our circle, and we could just make it a perfect circle, but I think we could make it like almost a little friendlier, or like maybe on each of these points, we just extend it out a little bit. And with that, it almost looks more round. Like when you compare these two shapes, this one just seems nicer, and it gives off a little more waffle vibes. Let's start by making this a better color. Maybe add a little more saturation. Then behind it, what if I just really take this shape that I had? I want that organicness. Then maybe we just smooth this out like we were doing earlier. Give it a color overlay, being that nice syrup color right around there. Now I understand why as a company you would want to show the actual food on the package. It's almost like that whole show don't tell sort of mindset. We don't have to tell you what's in this. We can just show you what it looks like and you're gonna want it. You gotta admit, that makes you kind of hungry. But with a brand as big as Eggo, they can afford a little bit of a risk, you know? In my mind, it would make more sense for them to lean stronger into a better brand image, where it's like whatever this logo could be, plus just a little bit of text, that would be way more of an iconic package than whatever this is, you know? And I think I have an idea for what we can do for the like texturing, rather than doing just like straight up lines on the inside. What if I just manually draw on those highlights? Nice and big, in a way kind of going along with the roundness of the edges and everything. Then again, we'll do that smooth plus contrast sort of thing. If we put an effect on all of these little indents, being a drop shadow, it almost looks like they're popping out, but that's because we're using a dark color. If we use a brighter color, that almost looks like it's indented now. Let's get a stroke on our whole Eggo. We'll even give a stroke on the syrup. Can't forget, we gotta get some shines in the syrup. I almost want to add another stroke that's smaller and this color. Maybe we put that on the inside. Anyway, let's move on to the text. Just get something saying Eggo, not in the pirate font anymore, please. I will be keeping that original red. That is a nice bright color. I'm thinking we need to keep that E like being all curvy. If I'm being totally honest, I think this original font is better than any of these, but for the sake of refreshing things, I think we gotta just send it with one of these. Make it nice and warped. Maybe a rise warp. I might want to kind of copy them with the structure, just kind of like that. Then let's just get something saying home style. You know, I'll do all the boring stuff of adding all this nutrition facts onto it later. There could have been improvement, I'll be honest. Anyway, last but not least, we've got a quick bonus snack. That being Cheez-It. Again, this is my redesign of the original package, which I did in the original snack packaging video, and I actually like it a lot. Coming back to this and seeing these two side by side, I think I did a pretty dang good job. But anyway, I do have an idea for just how we can amp this up a little bit, and that's by making the extra toasty version. The main reason I wanted to do this is I think we can get a cool kind of effect with some steam behind this Cheez-It. Put it behind the Cheez-It and everything else. Now I am gonna bring down the opacity, and then on top of that, we're gonna get a mask so we can nice and smooth brush away the steam. We can even brush back in some hardness. That way it kind of just looks like there's layers of steam going on. Let's just mess with some of the other text because obviously now it's gotta say extra toasty. Extra toaster, nope. Let's ditch that rectangle and maybe we make this text more like vibey. And rather than a bevel and emboss, it's more of like a drop shadow sort of thing. Extra toasty, ooh, like a ghost. I'm kind of tired if you couldn't tell. We'll obviously have to make the Cheez-It itself look a little more burnt, which conveniently we have an actual tool called the burn tool in Photoshop. That did make it maybe a little too saturated, so let's bring that down a little bit. Then I kind of want to add a texture. I mean, I guess just something like this, very similar to the Chips Ahoy one actually. I'm not gonna make it affect everything, but mainly just the edges. Nice little simple way for us to wrap things up. I think we actually did a pretty solid job today. The Eggo one did not turn out quite like I wanted it to, but other than that, I think all of these other ones look pretty nice. My favorite's gotta go to Goldfish. It's just nice, especially that logo I'm pretty proud of. So here's me putting it on the globe for the tradition. And for the next episode, let's fix some chip bags. Just leave a comment of what you want me to redesign and how you would do it. I see those suggestions easier if you're a channel member. Thank you guys for the support. And with that, don't forget to subscribe.